Hey everyone, in today's video I'm building a Japanese inspired box lamp with a twist. It features interchangeable panels so you can switch up the look anytime you like. I'll walk through the whole process from design and joinery to lighting and making the panels with my laser cutter. So years ago I bought these polystyrene sheets and I finally came up with the idea to use them in a Japanese inspired box lamp. Here I'm cutting some cherry wood that I previously milled and ripped into 1" by 1" pieces. Next I'm cutting grooves into two sides of these pieces. Later these grooves will serve as slots to insert the panels of the lamp. Here I'm using slightly wider stock and cutting rabbets on opposite sides. As a quick side note, I haven't done a lot of woodworking projects, and the majority of the things I've done are really picture frames, so when designing this lamp I relied on frame making techniques. So for example, I'm using a simple add-on to my crosscut sled for cutting miters. I'm also using a spacer block here because there's a high risk of kickback if the piece gets wedged between the blade and this fence. This is another picture frame technique I use where I tape the back of the miter joint to temporarily clamp and align the pieces. As you can see, the tape makes it easy to bring the pieces together during the glue up, and I place the frame into a strap clamp. I made two of these double-sided square frames. I placed the groove pieces into the corners of the square frame, and now I'm gluing these thin spacer pieces. These spacers correspond to the grooves of the uprights and create the channel for the panels to sit in. These spacer pieces were a little proud, so I used a plane to take down the height. I made a simple rectangular box using butt and rabbet joints. I took this simple rectangle box and cut it into 4 thin slices. So this is effectively just a narrow wooden mat for the panels. Now for the base and top sections. I wanted to try to make castle joints for the first time. I'm not sure if it's the correct terminology, but I started by cutting these mortices into the ends with a simple tenon jig. Then I cut some corresponding tenons. Once again, I'm not 100% sure that this is called a tenon in this case, but if you're watching this and you know, just leave a comment. I cleaned up these cuts with some hand tools off camera. Pushing the pieces together results in a tight fit. Though it's not perfect, it's pretty good for my first time. I make a couple of through cuts to make a new slot to accept the third piece for the castle joint. This is the third piece for the joint, which has half of the tenon removed. Now I'm able to assemble the castle joint, and it has a nice tight fit. Like I said, this was my first time making a castle joint, so I'm actually pretty happy with the results here. Is it worthwhile to include some sanding in this video? I don't know, but let's show a little here. Here I taped off the panels because I'm gluing down the uprights and I want to avoid gluing these in place. After all this, I needed to think about the internal light source, and at first I made a flat piece of wood, but I realized I wanted the light to shine through the bottom as well, so I went with the idea to make a cross that would fit into the corners of the lamp. So I started to glue together some of the offcuts from the beginning of the video. I made some measurements and cut these notches out into the ends to fit inside. For the light, I already had this sticky LED strip, so I wrapped it around a piece of PVC pipe. Gluing down the light to the cross brace. For finishing the piece, I use paste wax because it's cheap, doesn't really change the color of the wood much, and I kind of like the lighter look of the cherry. Ultimately, I didn't like the way the polystyrene sheets looked, so I bought some washi paper and used some double-sided tape to hold it down. And now I'm trimming the edges of the paper. Now for the laser cutting. This was the first design I made, which was a relatively simple shape, just kind of like a circle in the middle thing. The next one has more of a traditional style Japanese pattern. And I kind of like both designs. I guess it just depends on the mood I'm in. Here's a shot of the final assembly for the project with me interchanging a couple of the panels. To be honest, this was my most favorite woodworking project because I was able to execute my own design, and really it was at a level of complexity that matched my skill level. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. My channel is basically non-existent at this point, so any support would be greatly appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and take it easy.